sustainability as a core part of Space Lab's mission. Maybe you can talk to me about how you're planning to address environmental impacts in rocket design, propellants, and perhaps also operations.
With regards to space exploration first, if you look at the potential for space exploration for sustainability on Earth, there's counterintuitive parts to that. Like, why would you launch a methane oxygen rocket that it produces a lot of greenhouse gases, even water, which is a greenhouse gas, high enough up in the altitude? If you have a hydrogen oxygen rocket, you put a lot of those in the atmosphere. Why would you do that? And say, for instance, if you look at satellites and what they're doing for GPS, and a ship that before had to go, you were on a course, you have to adjust that course, you're using much more fuel, you're using much more diesel than what you're doing. If you plot in the GPS, you account for the curvature of the Earth, you go from A to B, where you need to go, you bypass storms, so you're not using a lot of fuel. I don't know how many millions of tons of fuel we save every day by just having GPS and having that as a service. It's in our opinion that the world is evolving and developing, and we can't stop that. It's the Space Lab can't tell everyone to, everyone stop polluting, everyone stop doing greenhouse. Even if the West does it, you still have countries like China that frankly don't care as much and don't buy into the whole environmental thing as much as we do in the West. And they're not going to stop. So what we need to do is to find new solutions to things. We need to move our infrastructure out into orbit and out onto the moon and Mars and other places eventually. We need to go and mine asteroids and planets for minerals that we need to produce electric vehicles, and not have child workers and polluting the seabeds and polluting the air with those sort of activities here on Earth. And that's really the end. That's the vision Space Lab has. We want to enable that for the world. Norway has tremendous capabilities with regards to drilling in the North Sea. You could use that same competence, the same mindset, and the same technical expertise you could use to mine minerals in space. But you can't get there. So you can't. You don't do it because you can't get there. But with a rocket, with the correct space, a launch system, you could get there, and you could actually do things like Blag Johansen is very fond of talking about. If you first get to the moon,
Yeah,
getting back to Earth is only a fraction
the
of the
cost.
energy
Mm.
and the cost. Yeah, if you're there already. So that's really, again, you're asking people to come on a mission where we're going to find something out, and they're like, what are we finding out? Well, we don't know that yet. You might be venturing out into space to find out something that you still don't know what you are looking for, but you have to go out and look for it. And a great analogy is something I first heard Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about, and he spoke about a cave analogy, that we can imagine that we're all, you know cave dwellers in the Stone Age or whatever, and we live in a little cage, and in there we have everything we need. A cave, I mean, not a cage, a cave. And we live in this cave, and we have everything we need. We have food, we have water, we have entertainment. There are problems there. Everyone knows we're running out of resources because this cave can't sustain us forever. And then someday some person finds a exit to the cave, and comes back to the rest of us and says, I found an exit. There's a world out there outside of the cave. And then there's some people who go, yeah, we should explore that. We should send some of our resources, some of the food, some of the water, into this new world and explore it. And then some people might say, but we haven't solved all of the problems we have here in the cave.
Yeah.
So why on earth would we go outside of the cave? And now, us, in retrospect, we know very well that if they just go out of the cave, you have basically, compared to the cave itself, you have infinite resources out in the world than if you would hide in a cave. And that is what the universe is to our planet. we live on a planet in a universe which, for all we can tell, it's infinite. And that means infinite both in space and also infinite in energy and resources. So the whole question about, how will you justify the use of our resources on this planet to go to space? The answer is that we need to make sure that we use the resources for that space exploration in a way that is sustainable. And what we mean by that sustainability is, it's a word that's used, a lot, but the definition of the word is that you're satisfying your own needs without ruining someone else's needs in the future to satisfy their own needs. And so as long as you make sure that you're following that sustainability in the true sense, unpolitical, sort of scientific sense of the word, if you're making sure you're truly sustainable in the way you explore space, because you think that eventually you're going to make up for it by some other technology, then I think you can justify the whole space thing. And we're going to look back at this as a species, and we're going to be like, well, of course we had to explore the universe because we found out that thing that we don't yet know what is, but we don't know what's out there, and we need to find out. And it's only by going there that we're gonna learn everything. Because there's I work with an advisor to our organization. Is called Pete Worden to Space Lab, and he's been the director of NASA at Ames. He's a podcast guest, by the way. You should host. He's incredibly interesting to talk to.
Thanks
And
for the tip.
he has been the director of NASA Ames, and he works on breakthrough initiatives. He's been a general in the U.S. Air Force too, and he works for breakthrough initiatives. And what they're working is on finding extraterrestrial life. They're looking for it, they're listening for it, and they're going out and exploring to see if they can find it. So they have three different projects doing that. They have Breakthrough Starshot, which is a solar sail, a new type of spaceship that can travel at like 20% the speed of light to go and explore distant planets. And then you have a Breakthrough Watch initiatives and a Breakthrough Listen initiatives, where they're sort of listening for this extraterrestrial life. They can't seem to find anything out there. They can only look at it. They can't go there, and look at it and feel it and truly, see it up close. And that's why you need space transportation, you need space exploration to actually go out there and see what's there eventually. So that's also something, obviously, more down the line for Space Lab. But a vision of ours is also that you should mine asteroids, and you should explore deep space, and you should put people, or at least robots to begin with, because
Yeah.
the risk is much less. I don't want to be launching people anytime soon, at least not for another, at least another 5 years, 10 years. But you could send robots, and you could find stuff out that could really help us here on Earth.
If you appreciated that, then click here for more content like this. Go on, click it. And don't forget to subscribe. Be well.